It's a stunning location from the Iron Age, one of the most well-known places in all of history. And just like the rest of Afghanistan, it has been largely forgotten and sadly overlooked. This is the place where Alexander the Great died, a massive city with great walls, towering over the landscape. Once inside, we find streets laid out in an incredible grid pattern, something unheard of at this time in history. The foundations of this place go back to the 6th century BC, but at the time of Alexander's death here in 323 BC, it was already a prosperous and very large city. We know about Alexander's death here because it was recorded by his own historian, but unfortunately, that's all we have. There are no archaeological finds or artifacts that confirm this account, so for now, it remains a historical maybe. But regardless, this is still an incredibly important place. The ancient city is called Balkh, and it's located in northern Afghanistan, only about 10 kilometers south of the border with Uzbekistan. Back in antiquity, it was situated right on the edge of the known world. It was the furthest point that Alexander ever reached, and thus, this is also considered the end of the world. He had come so far, and now he was dying. This was a tragedy. After defeating the Persians, he felt invincible. Nothing could stop him. He even attempted to marry Roxana, a Persian noblewoman, but she was already married to another man. In his anger, Alexander ordered the execution of her husband, and then he took her as his wife. But soon after, while putting down a rebellion in Persia, he became ill and died only 10 days later at the age of 32. He left behind a huge empire that would soon be divided up among his friends. He was only half Macedonian himself, but through conquest and marriage, he united much of the known world together. He founded many cities and spread Greek culture around the empire, which led to the birth of many new cultures that mixed Greek and Eastern traditions. His conquests helped usher in the Hellenistic period, a new age of cultural exchange between East and West. But as Alexander spread his empire across the known world, he never once set foot in China. If you want to change that, you can do so by visiting the tomb of Emperor Qin Shi Huang. You can explore the incredible underground labyrinth where his terracotta army was buried with him. The first emperor of China lived between 259 and 210 BC. He was the first to unify the warring states of China into one great empire. Unfortunately, he ruled like a god over his people, standardized weights and measures, coinage, and even writing. He built roads and canals and started the construction of the Great Wall. All of these accomplishments were meant to bring order to his people, but he went too far and oppressed his people. When he died, his own son took his head and displayed it. While Alexander brought many benefits to the people he conquered, there were always rebellions brewing in the east. He was killed by one such group when his army mutinied against him. He had forced them to march east for too long. They wanted to return home, and as punishment, he had executed several of their leaders. Now they wanted revenge. Some sources say that he was assassinated by his own friends, while others say that he was murdered by the very woman he had taken as his wife, Roxana. Was it revenge for her father who he had put to death? These questions will likely never be answered. What is known is that Alexander was carried into the city of Balkh on a golden litter. The journey from Persia must have been difficult and uncomfortable. Perhaps this was why he came down with a fever that quickly turned into a horrible illness. It might have been malaria, typhoid fever, or even the bubonic plague. His body deteriorated rapidly, and he died. Legend says that his embalmers used honey to slow down the decay. Then they wrapped his body in gold and spices, before encasing him in a coffin made of precious stones. According to Plutarch, the coffin was filled with myrrh and other spices and then sealed with molten gold. Apparently, this was to keep any grave robbers away. It worked for centuries, but in the 12th century, a madman named Shah Muhammad Shab used a pickaxe to open the coffin and steal some of Alexander's bones. Today, a bullet-riddled green marble tomb covers the site where he was originally buried. Only a few fragments of his original coffin remain. Those were found during excavations in the 1930s, and are now kept in a museum in Kabul. The city of Balkh remained important for centuries. It was a center of Buddhism and was visited by two famous Buddhist monks named Bodhidharma. He brought the teachings of Buddha to China. There is a mosque here dating back to the 8th century, and the city remained under Muslim control throughout the various conquests of Genghis Khan and his successors. Yet today, almost nothing remains of this ancient capital of Alexander's empire. In the 19th century, an explorer named Alexander Burns discovered the remains of the city. But not long after, the British began digging for gold and jewels here. They didn't care if they destroyed any ancient artifacts in the process. And so today, archaeologists have very little to work with. From satellite images, we can see the layout of the city walls, streets, and other structures. But excavating and actually finding something from this time period is quite difficult. For one thing, the city is on the edge of the desert, and wind and sandstorms have eroded away much of the soil here. Over the centuries, the soil erosion caused by these storms has turned what was once fertile land into an arid wasteland, and so the archaeological record has been lost. All we really have to show that Alexander the Great died here is this single coin. On the front, we see the bearded face of Alexander. In his right hand he holds a scepter, and in his left, a small globe. The globe represents the world. As a young prince, Alexander was tutored by the philosopher Aristotle. Alexander was only 14 years old at the time. The globe was a gift from Aristotle to his student. It's said that Aristotle told Alexander to remember that the earth was round. That way, when he conquered the world, he would know that there was nowhere else to go. On the reverse of the coin, we see the head of Apollo. This was the Greek god of music, poetry, and light. Light was associated with Alexander. He was known as the bringer of light. He illuminated the darkness for the barbarians of the East. These coins were minted shortly after his death. At the time, the city was called Alexandria, but it was renamed Balkh about 3 centuries later, so any coins minted after this would not have his name on them. It's not far from the possible burial place of Alexander is another place where legends say he stayed during his campaign in 330 B. C. He is said to have fought a battle here against King Porus. This encounter is known as the Battle of the Hydaspes River. It was described by Arrian. It's one of Alexander's officers. After fighting all day, both sides were exhausted. Alexander was wounded several times and his horse was killed under him, yet neither side would back down. Finally, seeing the ferocity of Alexander, King Porus surrendered. Legends say that Porus owned an elephant with a tower on its back. It was manned by archers, and it nearly killed Alexander. So to honor this event, Alexander supposedly had a column erected here. Sadly, this column no longer stands. It was destroyed by an earthquake in the 12th century. The only evidence that anything ever stood here is the hole in the ground where it once stood. It's an important site, but it doesn't get many visitors because no one knows about it. When I was traveling through Afghanistan in 2019, I asked every local I met if they knew where Alexander the Great died. No one had heard of it, yet this is the most important person in the history of this nation. People know Alexander more than they know their own history. Here at the possible site of his death, I removed my shoes and walked barefoot in the dust. It's a powerful feeling to be in a place like this, especially when there are no tourists around. You feel like you have stepped back in time and you can almost hear the clash of steel from the battles that happened here long ago. If you want to visit these amazing places for yourself, then please let me know. I will personally write back and answer your questions. And if you have ever traveled to Afghanistan, or if you live there now, then please let us know how it has changed over the years. Everyone, thank you for watching. And until next time, goodbye.